Okay, so, let me find the tweets. Okay, who made stupid tweets, first of all? The meta. Okay, alright, I wanted to talk about the meta tweet. I remember I had that one lined up. Nintendo's tweet definitely wins the award for worst wording of the day. I feel so bad for him. I know exactly what he meant. I feel like there's certain things that you just can't say, and, like, I mean, we all know what he meant, right? Okay, yeah, it was kind of like, easy dunk points, because it's like not, the wording isn't great, but, like, it's pretty obvious what he meant, and I think he's right, I mean, ultimately. Alright, Blur versus Melee Stats. Blur versus Melee Stats. Do floaties exist? We're going to talk about do floaties exist. We're going to talk about the meta. Is the meta changing? We're going to talk a little bit about ICs, which is going to segue into the ICs talk I want to do later in the week. I'm probably not going to talk about wobbling today, but I think it's fun to talk about, especially because I think there's like so little nuance that a lot of the prominent voices are bringing to the discussion. All right, so let's talk about the meta. So I had a conversation with, this is the tweet, just my take. Melee has barely changed at the top level in the last several years. I might not compete anymore, but I've spent the last 2+ years watching hours of VODs per day for lessons. So I feel like I've seen quite a bit. Okay, where did this conversation even start? When I looked into it a little bit, I think this is kind of a reaction to Armada. And kind of what Armada has been, Armada and Mango have had this conversation about who's the GOAT and all this stuff. I think Tafo was the one who started it, which is like, of course, this conversation started with Tafo asking who the GOAT was. I'm so sick of like fucking who are the 5 gods? What what about who's the GOAT? What about Ken? I mean, ultimately, like, I super agree with Leffins. This is like where I'm at. Like, I kind of just don't really care, and like GOAT debates are silly. Saying the meta hasn't changed for top pro is ultimately bad for the scene. It's a bad look, even if it's not an opinion. I think Leffins' take is really good. We're gonna open this tab and we're gonna look at it a bit. But I mean, like, where I'm really at is like this. It's like where my melee go. Like, what if Mango quit in 2015? What if Music King quit in 2008? All this shit. I like the shout out to Fizzy, by the way. I think this is like a really nice, really cool move on his part. Okay, but so they're talking about the GOAT, and I'll say this real quick about the GOAT discussion, because that's the part of this discussion I actually care about the least. I think the GOAT discussion is, here's how you quantify. Yeah, here's how you quantify who the GOAT is. You make a mathematical function that basically takes the derivative of, like, imagine everyone's placing or they're ranking year over year, and imagine Mango was like #1 in 2009, Mango's #1 in 2010, Armada was #1, whatever, right? Armada's 2011 or whatever year, he's 2015, 16. Just everyone should make their own mathematical functions that, like, basically assign each player a certain number of points based on their ranking for a given year, accounting for inactivity, and then that, I think that's the only way you can talk about it. I think what's ultimately going on here is that everyone's got a sort of vague, like, function in their head of how they think getting first for a given year on the rankings should map to being the GOAT. And it's like, okay, what Tavo's basically saying is I have a function in my head that I haven't defined very well. I'm not putting it on a piece of paper, or I'm not writing it out, but I have a function in my head that basically says if Mango continues to be #1 for a little while, then his streak of #1s will become a bigger number than how many years Armada was #1 relative to the field, and therefore I will call Mango the GOAT. So what's actually going on is Tafo has some vague function in his head of what he thinks quantifies your skill relative to the field across all time, right? And he's saying, I've got this function in my head, and I don't know what you guys' function is, but in my function, the way my numbers are, the way I'm crunching the numbers, if Mango gets first for 1 more year or 2 more years, then he gets enough points that he's now above Armada, who is currently #1 in my head. And the problem with this stupid GOAT discussion is that no one's got the same function, right? No one's got the same kind of like system for how they're evaluating. Like, say, imagine you get 10 points for every year that you're #1, 5 points for every year that you're #2, right? Something super simple like that. And then, and that's how I'm doing it. But say you get 20 points for every year you're #1, and 3 points for every year you're #2, or 15 points for every year you're #2. Everyone can come up with their own little function, and it's very vague and not well defined. And so the problem is people are just kind of talking over each other and saying, well, I think, Armada, like, because he quit, Mango's #1s in the years that Armada wasn't active don't mean as much because Armada wasn't part of the picture. So they're basically saying Armada, should get some like Mango's number ones for the years that Armada wasn't competing don't matter as much or something. But you can ultimately, I think everyone who's talking about who the GOAT is, you can model the way that they're thinking about who the GOAT is mathematically. Like if you actually dug into it, I think every single person basically has some sort of little function in their head that defines who what ranks are worth what, and they're basically just talking over each other with regards to like, well, my system says that I think Mango's the GOAT because he has active for more years. Well, my system says Armada was the GOAT because he competed for more relevant years or some shit. And because nobody's talking about the same system, everyone's just yelling over each other. And so it's stupid. Like, I'm not going to care about this GOAT discussion until somebody actually comes out and says, look, this is how I'm numerically evaluating why I think Armada being number one in 2016 is worth Mango being number one whatever the fucking year. No one's even saying that at all. Isn't this kind of the same thing with the annual rankings? One first and one tourney, not equal another first. Yeah, that's exactly right. But you know, with the annual rank, you're exactly right. It's just instead of tournaments, you have years. That's exactly right. You're exactly right, Dr. Gray. Yes, it is complete. It is basically analogous. It is basically analogous. Who is the best over 1 year with respect to tournaments where, you know, maybe Mango went to more tournaments than Armada that year, but Armada won more of a higher percentage of the tournaments he went to. It's the exact same thing. And how do people solve that problem? There's two ways they do it. There's the ultimate approach, where they, well, the old ultimate approach, where they literally had an algorithm, which is what I'm saying. They literally had a mathematical function that they could plug numbers into and plug variables into, and it would actually spit out based on who went to what tournament, who number one is. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They literally did that. Or the melee approach, and the approach that I think everyone uses now, which is you just get a panel and they all just kind of subjectively fill it in, and then you're done. So we could do that too. You know, we could literally do a panel for who you think the GOAT is of all time, and you could have Scar at number 69, just like that one guy. He made a list. He made a list of the greatest players of all time, and he put Scar at number 69. Why is it more dubious with that? It's because you have to fucking amortize over a longer period of time. But yeah, it's Hanky Panky was high in a Neil system. There you go. I mean, Hanky Panky, he's high in my book. He beat Scar one time, but then Scar beat him, and Scar got a People's Champion mode out of the time he won. So maybe that set was more important. All right, so I don't think the GOAT discussion is really ever going to be solved unless we actually make a panel or we make a mathematical function to plot it out. And because I don't think people are ever going to do those two things, I don't think it's worth talking about. So what I will talk about is something that I think is possible to actually break down, which is the meta. So in response to all this stuff, you know, I think this meta conversation kind of spiraled out of, this is the history of where I see this meta conversation coming from. Mango has been kind of vocal about saying things like, you know, I think Adam would have a tougher, this is something that Mango and Zane and Leffen touched on their 6-4 podcast, but Mango was basically saying, look, I think if Armada stayed active, or if he was active today, he would have a lot more problems than he did in the past, which is kind of coming out of the fact that, okay, it used to, the argument used to be Zane and Wizzy. Well, Wizzy's a little bit inactive right now, but in particular, Zane, I think the argument is basically Armada would struggle a lot with Zane. And so he would probably not be as dominant today as he was when he was super active a while back. Hey, what up, Deku? Thank you for another gifted sub to Fritzy Magpies. Damn. And I think that's fair. I think Armada, you know, yeah, if you actually look at his characters, I think Zane would probably be a good character counter for Armada, just based on Peach Fox. But basically spiraling out of that was it kind of came into this conversation where, you know, there's this clear kind of tension between Mango and Armada, where Mango's saying, look, it's disrespectful that, you know, you're considering yourself the GOAT, considering you quit right as things were getting spicy. And so we're never going to get to see how you actually stack up against the modern field, which is more important because people are better now. And Adam's saying, Armada's saying, well, people aren't really that much better now. The meta hasn't really changed at all. In fact, the last time the meta changed was when I introduced Armada Shines and Falling Up Airs, motherfucker. And that's kind of where this talk of the meta kind of got introduced. And I started thinking about this tweet because Drug Fox chimed in. And in fact, Armada was so impressed by Drug Fox's tweet that he actually made this tweet, which says, sometimes when tons of people question you even more, should ask yourself if you are right. When I see Drug Fox like many of the tweets and agree with me, I gotta say I feel even more confident in my take, even if a lot of people disagree. First of all, I think this is hilarious because I love Drug Fox and I love his takes. And I showed Laudandus this, and Laudandus said, "Man, you know you've made it when Armada argument from authorities using you as the authority." So congratulations to Drug Fox. Drug Fox is now the authority that Armada turns to when he needs to name drop somebody. That's a win in my book. Okay, but what does the meta mean? And I was thinking about this, and I dug into it. I asked him a question. I said, "Hey man, Jesus, where's my reply?" I said, "Hey man, what do you mean by meta in the first place? And also, what do you think other and most people mean by meta when they talk about Melee's meta?" Okay, I just want to read Drug Fox's responses. Twitter, what is going on with your threading, bro? Yeah, it's a great question. To me, meta involvement includes things like flowcharts people use, breakthroughs in matchups. This is important. Like when Armada 11 started falling up during the Fox Ditto or Armada Shining, I feel like that clearly changed the Fox Ditto meta forever. Okay, let's stop here. So I think this is really important. And I messaged Drug Fox about this because I wanted to dig into it a little further. And I said, "Hey man, I have some thoughts about the meta." And I realized the meta as it pertains to Melee as a whole is actually just a very nebulous thing to talk about. And he was like, "Yeah, lol, agreed." And I said basically this. I said, I think meta discussion is way more pertinent at a matchup level. And I think this is kind of what this tweet starts to hint at. Like, when I think about metas in Melee, I think metas are a lot more pertinent. Like, if you're going to talk about the meta, it's like what's good to pick, what style is good to play. But I think that, you know, that doesn't change that much overall. Like, you know, I think that's about as that's like the tier list, right? That's like saying, oh man, like the last time the meta changed was like when Axe and Amsa started introducing Pikachu and Yoshi to the viable list of characters. And I think what people mean when they say the meta is changing is I think they mean like the summary of all of the relevant matchups, right, that you see a lot in tournaments and how those matchups are played and the meta as it pertains to those matchups. So these are two examples that clearly pertain to Fox Dittos, or well, falling up air in the Fox Ditto could also be falling up air in Fox versus Falco. Armada Shining is clearly, this is a Fox Ditto specific technique, right? So this is the Fox Ditto meta changing. And I agree. I think that Armada's Fox in particular, by introducing these two techniques in roughly 2015, changed the Fox Ditto meta a lot. And then I was saying, okay, yeah, your example, Drug Fox, your example was really good. I think the Fox Ditto meta changed quite a bit when Armada introduced Armada Shines and falling up airs. But by that token, haven't Marth matchup metas changed a lot? Right? Like, if I go up to Zane and I say, hey man, I just don't think you've changed any Marth metas since you got good. Like, I don't think you've pushed the Marth meta at all. Like, that would just be ridiculous, right? Like, I think Zane would say to that, like, like, okay, I've got the results to show it, right? Like, and then when I watch Mango's Falco, for example, I think this is a little bit harder to crystallize or a little bit harder to quantify, but I think Mango's Falco routes in terms of his combos are certainly different than they were a few years ago. But I think the challenge there is I don't think Falco is nearly as easy to talk about as a lot of the other top tiers, because I think Falco's combos are always often very custom. Like, I can tell you what I think the Sheik flowchart bread and butter combo is on a Space Animal. It's you down throw, and then you tech chase them essentially, and maybe you crouch over them if they miss the tech or something like that. If I asked you, or if you asked me what I think Falco's bread and butter combo is against Fox on Battlefield, like, you guys all know why that's a very difficult. It's very difficult to answer that, right? Like, there's so many more variables when it comes to how Falco combos people. I think it's a lot harder to talk about Falco combos. I think Mango hits Marth way harder than he did like 2 years ago, even, or 1 year ago. I think he hits Marth way harder. Like, he's getting like consistent, like, I don't know. I feel like he is consistently threatening the 0 to death when he hits Marth on FD now. Threatening it, at least. Threatening it, or threatening to put Marth in a really bad spot where he gets an edgeguard mix-up. And I don't think he was doing that 2 years ago. Now, I don't know if that means that the Falco meta for combos changed, or Mango just got more consistent at doing the same combos. And Drug Fox, in our conversation, he raised a very good point, which was, hey, I think Mango's combo routes are different, but it's not like they're necessarily better. Like, say a new Falco player shows up and he copies Mango's 2020 combo game and gets really good at it. And then another new Falco player shows up and combos Mango's 2016 combo game really well, but is really good at it, right? Doesn't drop combos. It might not be the case that Mango's 2020 combos and what he chooses to do in his combos are necessarily strictly functionally better. It could just be that he's cleaner overall, and that's why he's doing more damage. So that's kind of something you have to consider here, is that, like, I think because with Mango in particular and what he's doing with Falco, it's really kind of tough to talk about what specifically is getting him more damage. A lot of it might not be the meta changing. A lot of it might just be that people are getting more consistent at DI, which is forcing Mango to adapt to DI better. Mango is getting more consistent at when to go for one option versus the other, but those options were always on the table. That might not necessarily mean the meta is changing, depending on your definition of the meta. Like, the options might have already been on the table, and Mango's just getting better at hitting them. But I do think with characters like, for example, Falco and how he combos, I think it is a lot harder to quantify whether the meta is changing than something like Armada Shining with Fox Dittos, where with Armada Shining, it's like very obvious. It's like, oh, Fox is a 10-frame window at the end of his Firefox charge animation, where he doesn't have a hitbox around him, so you can shine spike him, and no one was exploiting that in the past, and in 2015, Armada started exploiting it. That is like a very clear and obvious thing to point to for the meta changing. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I think Armada's playstyle and the way he has these very obvious specific answers to scenarios in matchups like, oh, Puff has been ledge camping me at EVO 2015. I will run up to the ledge and down tilt in a very safe manner. That's like a very obvious thing to point to. I think a lot of the things Mango brings to the table, it's not that clear and easy to talk about. And so I think that's why someone like Mango can say, bro, of course the meta's been fucking changing. Have you not been watching my gameplay? And then someone like Armada can say, yeah, but what are you really doing differently? I think you've just gotten cleaner at doing the things you're already doing. And like, they both feel like they're right. And as the onlooker, it's kind of hard to tell how much of it is really new options being brought to the table versus Mango getting better at the stuff he was already doing. I think it's a lot harder to quantify, and I think that their play styles even kind of make that the case. And the way they talk about the game kind of makes that the case. And that's why I kind of think it's like, it's kind of tough to really talk about, because if you're going to talk about the meta and how it's changing, I don't even think they mean the same thing when they say the meta, right? Yeah, slide off the eye, stuff like that. No, totally. Those are that's a good differentiation. But in theory, you can say, hey, relative to 2016 or relative to 2017, people are more or less going for this. This is the Armada argument and the Drug Fox argument. It's basically people are more or less going for the same options, but they've gotten better and cleaner at hitting them. And because they've gotten better at hitting those options and cleaner at hitting them, even though the meta hasn't changed too much, people are performing better. People are killing earlier. And the argument that the meta is changing is basically, no, people are playing differently. Like, I think one of the clearest examples of the meta changing is when Sung, bless his heart and bless his soul, won Super Smash Sundays literally by shield dropping, and everyone realized, holy shit, maybe I should learn how to shield drop. And this was in 2014 or whatever. And then everyone started shield dropping overnight, literally overnight. That is a clear and a clearly defined meta change across all characters. I think that was the last time there was a very clear universal tech that everyone picked up roughly at the same time, and the meta clearly shifted across all characters. Wave shining out of shield, that's a more of a matchup specific thing or a character specific thing. I don't think the meta is just techniques. Yes, but it's the easiest thing to, I mean, so what else do you think it is, right? What else do you think? It's definitely not just techniques. I think the overall meta is like what characters are viable and things like that. But I think that changes at a much slower pace in a game like Melee War, because I think most of the top tier matchups are functionally close to 50-50. More CC use, that's a great example. But again, that's a technique. Again, that's a technique, right? But because it's a technique that you have to account for, the options that you use to play around those techniques changes. That's a meta to me. So I think a lot of metas kind of comes like the concept of a meta changing in a matchup, or the meta changing for many characters. I think a lot of that discussion comes off of the back of new techniques being introduced and people going for new techniques, right? Even the way people space, but that one's harder to talk about. I talked about on commentary at Slippy Champions League this weekend when I was commentating IBW versus Zayn. I thought that IBW was much better than a lot of, I thought he was very good and much better than a lot of Foxes I've seen in the past at dash dancing in a particular range against Marth that makes it hard for Marth to pick a forward-facing option. And I thought that that was that would be the kind of thing that I think could be a more subtle hallmark of a new meta. That's not a technique. That's more of like a spacing detail. And there's been developments like that too. Like think about the way people play around Hungry Box, like in the air, like where IBDW stands in that matchup, I think is also very clean. I keep using IBDW as an example here, but I mean, that's because he's the best Fox right now. Kind of important to note that the argument is not has the meta changed, it says the meta changed significantly. No, it's true. I mean, I think that you cannot argue that no character matchups have not been developed, in particular significantly, like Marth Falcon. Marth Falcon has changed a lot. Marth Falcon, you cannot argue that Marth Falcon has not changed a lot. But the results show it, the gameplay shows it. Marth Falcon has changed a lot. Falco Marth has changed a lot. I think certain character matchups have changed a ton, and I think when people talk about the meta changing or whatever, the meta being developed, I think a lot of it is just people are basically saying, if you look at all of the viable or all of the common matchup metas, have those been changing at a rapid enough rate that I think it's significant as a given individual. And Armada's saying from the outside looking in, I don't really think so. And Mango's saying, nah, bro, you gotta peep game. Like yes, the meta is changing a lot. You should see what we're doing, kind of thing. And because the word significantly is thrown in there, it is very subjective. It is very subjective. I think the and this is something that Drug Fox said to me. He was like, "This is my last random thought. There definitely have been changes. How big they are and how relevant they are is up for discussion," which is my point about the subjectivity of the phrase significant. Nobody is trying to say Mango or Zane haven't improved in the last 3 years in any capacity, but is the overall landscape of high-level melee significantly different? Not really IMO, and I think that's fair to say. Like, I think my 2017 Fox and Cern today would perform roughly the same. And I think that's true. I think if Drug Fox started playing in, and, okay, well, maybe this isn't even really that fair, for example, if I'm being honest, because he's been playing. And yeah, I think that's true. I think if Armada started playing in, I think he would do just fine. Like, again, it comes down to what you mean by significant. I don't think Armada, I think Armada would be like a top 3 player or something, or top 5, right? I think the changes definitely have been at more of a matchup granularity level than the overall landscape has changed a ton. And I think that's expected because I don't think the overall landscape is going to change a ton in a few years. Like, that's just not really how it works. And this is kind of why I feel like these guys are a little bit shouting over each other, like Mango and Armada. Like, I think Mango is completely right that in Mango's... Oh, and thank you so much for the prime, my dude. I think Mango's completely right that the way he plays is different and better. I mean, this is going to sound a little like I'm fucking just kind of complimenting him, like, excessively. But I think, look, like, I think Mango's so custom and he's so freestyle and he's so good at it that I do think Mango is not... It's very hard for me or even Mango to really talk about what he's doing differently because I think he does so many different things compared to most other top level players. So I think when Mango says his meta has changed a lot, I think he's absolutely fucking right. Same for Zane. But I also think Armada's correct in saying that if Armada started playing again, he would be just fine. And I think ultimately what they both would come to an agreement on is, or that when I say okay, I think Mango, ultimately, I think the core of this is like, I think Mango just wishes Armada would play again. And I think he would probably agree that, like, Armada would do just fine if he, like, unrusted him. He's probably not even, like, that rusty, but... Yeah, like, I mean, I think for Armada, there probably are certain things he would have to, like, really learn how to deal with. He would have to spend some time labbing Zane, for sure. Like, he would have to lab the shit out of that for a little while. For sure. Yeah, it comes down to what you deem significant. The TLDR on my end with regard to the meta shift discussion is I think certain matchups have changed a lot. Certain matchups have not really changed at all. I think players like Drug Fox and Armada would do just fine if they entered today. I don't think Armada would be clear-cut number 1. There's another tweet I want to respond to while I'm doing Smash Twitter React Andy. I gotta think of a better name for this than Smash Twitter. It's like what? So Ludwig's got Reddit recap. What do I call this? All right. What is a synonym of recap that starts with the letter T? Are you fucking kidding me? Okay, what is a synonym of the word review that starts with the letter T? Bro, what the fuck? Twitter takedown. Twitter Tuesday? Yeah, good. It's Tuesday today. Thank you. But I did this yesterday, and it was Monday. So I can't just call it Twitter Tuesday unless I only want to do it on Tuesdays. I like Twitter takedown. Twitter takedown and Twitter takeaways are pretty good. Side note, this is my favorite tweet of the day. Sorry to get off topic again, but this is my favorite tweet from today. Bro, you guys gotta follow Spark. If you don't follow Spark, like, you gotta follow Spark. He's so fucking funny. This shit, Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for HBox, but this shit fucking killed me. Like, this shit fucking killed me. He's like, you fucking idiot. You complete idiot. You absolute simpleton. My heart was actually in a different location, rendering your victory over me hollow. This shit was so funny to me, bro. Which I memed on because if you've played Paper Mario, this is literally the plot of Chapter 3 of Paper Mario. So I guess the takeaway here is that this is HBox. HBox is Tubba Blubba. And because his heart, which is right here, is in a different location, you actually can't kill him. Yeah, this is HBox. He took his heart out of his body and he gave it to Steve, and Steve is carrying it, and he built a fortress around it, a Minecraft fortress. And so because HBox's heart is being protected by Steve in the Minecraft fortress, you can't actually damage HBox. You can't kill him. He's unkillable. That's crazy. Twitter turbulence, that's not even a fucking synonym for any of the things we're going for here. Okay, what did Zane say? As far as me versus Armada goes, there's no point talking about it. Infinite speculation answers nothing. Nothing to do about it. I can only keep playing, getting better. That's all I care about. Pushing myself in melee limits till my hands won't let me anymore because there are no more bones in them once I become a boomer. Yeah, I mean, this is how you gotta look at it as a top player. I agree with both. I agree with this too. Mango is extrapolating here. I don't think Armada was saying we haven't gotten better since 2018 or whatever, and we suck as... I don't think this is really what he was trying to say. I do feel bad for Armada because Mango gets 3 times as many likes as Armada because he's just more popular and he's more charismatic. Sorry, Armada. I never said no one ever improved at all. I did say I think the more optimized the game gets, it's an absolute progression or slower. You're really putting words in my mouth. I think that's correct. This had nothing to do with you. It was more to take on what I was reading as a whole. Just added the end because it was funny. Any shit talk I talk about you is literally as a player. I've never really said anything personal, and I will continue to make fun of you as a player because that's what I've done to all melee players since the dawn of time. I think that's fair too. It's reasonable. How do you expect to not like not comment or say anything about you ever? How are you gonna be the goat of a game so no one to talk about you? This is a point I actually made earlier too. People gotta realize. Look, I said this to somebody. I was like, it was actually even. This was in. Yeah, look at these fucking. Look, this is a deep cut Twitter thread. Look, 0 likes on these replies. Someone was saying Mango complaining about lame playstyles. I was like, you guys got to realize a lot. Like, if you actually listen to Mango talk about this shit at length on his own stream late at night, like, he gets very nuanced and very deep about this stuff. But if you look at him on Twitter, you got to realize a lot of this time he's just being trolly and tongue-in-cheek because he knows he can get a rise out of people and he knows he's funny. Like, it's just true. Mango will call Spark a wiener, or he'll call HBox a wiener, or whatever the fuck. But when you actually listen to him talk about those players, talk about HBox on his stream, he actually gives very nuanced critique over what he's actually thinking. And I think I think that's why these surface level reactions to all the things that these players are saying are it's just taking things out of context ultimately. And at the end of the day, it's hard to get full context on Twitter, unfortunately. All right, any closing thoughts? Because I do kind of want to get into some chess and Genshin Impact and some other shit soon. Any other thoughts? I was thinking closing thoughts, we might take a look at, oh yeah, some of the icy stuff real quick. Floaties, do floaties exist? Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't do any homework here. I didn't do any homework on this topic, so I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about it. Here's what I will say. In a complete and utter vacuum, if the melee stats guys, that is Ambi Sinister and Edwin Budding, are saying one thing, and the Crimson Blur is arguing with them, I'm team melee stats 100 times out of 100. That's all I know. Now, I didn't do any research myself into actual representation of floaties in tournaments today versus floaties in tournaments 2 years ago or 4 years ago or whatever. But I will say that I generally trust Ambi Sinister and Edwin Budding more than I trust the Crimson Blur. Now, I think the Icy's argument is fair. Okay, now this tweet got memed on a lot. Okay, you know, whatever. Nintendo said Icy's players have actually been getting bullied out of the game. If Melee had its own hate speech, Wobbler would be it. Okay, he should just left this sentence out. Because this is basically what people memed on. Let's just pretend this sentence wasn't in this tweet, okay? Let's do this. Okay. Alright, now let's talk about it. I think he's completely correct. Icy's players have absolutely been getting bullied out of the game. Almost all the top 100 Icy's players from recent years are inactive or retired right now, and there were quite a few of them. Yeah, I think that's correct. I think there's no... Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear. Again, I would highly encourage you guys... You guys should actually all just go watch the fucking Army episode of The Reads. It was really good. We had some really good discussions on this kind of thing. And yeah, it's true. I think people are mean to Ices players. I think I was one of them for a time, kind of, not super hardcore. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is the bullying. I mean, I think a lot of it is just wobbling too. I think some of it is just circumstances. Like, look, if we're gonna be honest, who do we think about when we talk? Let's actually take a step back here. Who are the Ices players? Okay, Fly Amanita. Did he quit because he got bullied out? No, he quit a long time ago. He quit to do fucking 3,000 IQ math bullshit. Nintendo, did he quit because he got bullied out? No, he's busy with his job at Twitch, and also he's more... Actually, he plays quite... He enters shit, and he just doesn't perform as well because the only character he practices in friendlies is Marth, and then he goes Ices when he's down a game versus Gatsu. Like, in tournament. Okay, so not Nintendo. Wobbles, no, he quit quite a while ago. Okay, who else? Chudat. Did Chudat get bullied out of the game? I don't think Chudat gives a fuck about what people say about him. I don't... My impression of Chudat is that Chudat... Is that why Chu quit? I don't... My impression of Chu is Chu just kind of disappears for a few years, and then you find out he's been playing Kirby in PM or some shit, and then he enters a couple Melee tournaments, and then he beats Mangle a couple of times and does the Yayas, and then he stops playing for a little while, and then he comes back to some more tournaments and does the Yayas, and then he'll probably show up again in a year or two. I'm not worried about Chu Dad. I don't think he really quit. Okay, Boyd, I think he's active. Army quit. Okay, Army might have gotten bullied out, so there's one. Diz, did Diz get bullied out? No, Diz stopped playing to do music stuff. He was, you know, very beloved by the community and put on a concert at Super Smash Con that everybody loved. I don't think he got bullied out. Drunk Sloth? Did people bully Drunk Sloth out? Doesn't everyone love Drunk Sloth? Numbers is a Wobbler hater. Look at it. Can I find different Numbers' Twitter? What's Numbers' Twitter? Maybe Sharks, but as far as I know, Sharks just plays Grand Blue Versus now. He's a Matera player in Grand Blue Versus. Infinite Numbers literally became a Fox player wobbling hater. He literally hates on wobbling and says he thinks wobbling should be banned. His Twitter bio says recovered wobbler or something like that. It's like recovered wobbler or some shit like that. So Infinite Numbers he's actually the bad guy. Crush bully Diz. I don't think it's why he quit though. Yeah, yes, Crush bully Diz, but I don't think it's why he quit. I don't know. Maybe Drunk Sloth, maybe Fork, maybe Frycook. I don't know what Frycook has been up to. I agree though that in the general case, generally speaking, this is correct. I completely agree with Nintendo. I think people are dicks to Ices players. But I do think it's just kind of one facet of this because I think a lot of the great Ices players, like the great all-time Ices players, I don't think most of them quit because of people making fun of Wobblers. I don't really think that's the case. I think a lot of them, honestly, lost motivation because of the wobbling. I don't even think it was like, they banned wobbling. Well, that's nonsense and I'm out. I don't think it was that. I don't think it was, they banned wobbling. Well, I can't succeed in tournament anymore, so I'm not going to bother. I don't think it was that. I think it was more, they just lost motivation because, like, Army's big thing was like, dude, I don't even know how to practice. When I sit down, should I be focusing on practicing wobbling matchups or should I focus on practicing with wobbling ban? What do I do? I literally don't know how to practice, so I can't really get ready for tournaments anymore because this tournament is banned, this tournament's not banned. So it's like I'm practicing two characters. It just feels silly. He's like, just make up your mind and I'll do that. And in the meantime, it's like, it's hard to care. I totally get it. I totally get it. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, I think Nintendo's mostly correct. I think this was unfortunate wording. I actually get where he's coming from. I don't think this is... People definitely memed on this. Like, I think you can make a very... Yeah, you can definitely say, cishet white guy, who's, like conflating wobbling with, like hate speech and this is a very, white privilege position kind of thing. You could definitely like take that approach and I don't really think that's where Nintendo's coming from and I feel a little bad because I know what he means and like I just don't think he worded it very well. I don't think it's worth jumping down his throat for this. I don't think it's worth blowing him up for it. Like, okay, it's pretty obvious what he meant. I think he's making a decent enough point. Yeah, it's just optics. It's just optics. It's like, I don't think it's that big a deal. Like, I think people kind of, I think people saw an opportunity to get some good old fashioned Twitter dunks in and they were like, ooh, time to get the dunks in. It's that time again. But I don't know, bro. It's like, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, like, the part of this that I'm actually interested in talking about, the Twitter takedown I'm actually interested in is, are the top 100 Ices players, are they gone because of bullying? Are they gone because of the wobbling ban? Or are they gone because of other reasons? And I actually think if you look at the all the great Ices players across all time, I I think if you look at all the great Ices players across all time, I think most of them they quit before Wobbling got banned. I don't think most of them quit because of bullying. I don't think that's why Fly or Wobbles or Chew or I don't think it's any of that. Like I don't know. Yeah, it's true. I would not want to be at Icy's main. You know, in today's socio-political climate, like I would be afraid of not afraid. I would be you know, well, I'm just not the kind of guy that would play Ices. I don't know. That's just not my style. But I don't know, man. I always say, like, with this shit, like, you kind of take the good with the bad. Like, I'm a vocal grappler hater. I think grapplers in fighting games are fucking dishonorable characters, and I think they all eat glue or whatever the Ultimate kids are saying. I think grappler players, I think they all got a couple screws loose. But, you know, when I say that, it's in good fun. And, you know, if any of them were saying, if any of them came and they were like, you know, like they actually had a legitimate problem with the community because they felt like they were actually being ostracized by the community and they had legitimate grievances the way I think Ice Climbers players do, then I would stop. You know, I don't know. Armada Orwell Madara Uchiha, as it's actually called, stays alive in a cave for 100 years just to come back into the world, show whenever in the mode hasn't changed, truly cementing his eternal GOAT status. Yeah, Levin's tweets are fire. Levin's tweets are fire. This is a good thread, too. My TLDR on the recent drama, GOAT debates are insanely silly, especially for games that are still active. Yeah, especially for games that are still active, because, like, with a game like basketball, it's like, you never, I mean, it's like, you can't even compare one person to their contemporaries. But with Melee, like, the game is still relatively young. So, like, they can literally play each other. Like, they should just, I don't know, man. Saying meta hasn't changed much as a retired top pro is ultimately bad for the scene and bad luck, even if it's your honest opinion. But it's also completely understandable to want to say what you think when people argue that Armada would no longer be good, which is ridiculous. We touched upon that this stream. At the end of the day, it's something we'll definitely do regardless because no player owns their legacy. People can and will endlessly debate over this shit. Whether it's right or wrong, it's usually wrong. People will always care more about who's doing sick shit right now than rather years ago. And that's how it should be if you want any scene to live long term. It's also just true. People are just getting better. Even if the meta hasn't changed at all, which we talked about at the beginning of the stream, people are definitely better. Like, the average skill level definitely, obviously goes up. So it's not just people care more about who's doing sick shit because they have short-term memories. It's just true. People are just better now. Anyway. It's complicated. Full video on YouTube tomorrow. I can't guarantee that this full video will be on YouTube tomorrow, but Kingly will be working on it.